Hello, welcome to this tutorial video on how to digitize a freestanding lace hair holder using the EmbroideryWare digitizing program. Before I go any further, I would like to give credit where credit is due. This project is courtesy of Kim Barnes. Kim sent me the file for this design and asked that I develop a tutorial video for others to learn how to do this. The settings and technique used in this video are hers, and we owe her a big thank you for sharing it with us. In this video, we will create a blank freestanding lace hair holder onto which you can add your own embellishment design. You may either digitize that design, use something from your own stash, or add a monogram or wording. Just choose a design that isn't overly dense for best results. The size of our finished hair holder will nicely accommodate a design of approximately 2 inches by 2 inches in the center without being too crowded. Kim uses 2 layers of Pellon Wash and Gone stabilizer, but you should be able to use other wash-away stabilizers as well. You'll also want to use your regular embroidery thread in the bobbin for this technique, as your bobbin thread will show. The colors you choose are up to you. Maybe try using 2 different colors for the base, one for each direction of stitching, for a unique look. The hole size we are creating in this video will accommodate a piece of 1/4 inch dowel or a chopstick. You may use other items for the pin if you wish, just adjust the diameter of the hole accordingly. Additional information for stitching freestanding lace designs can be found on the internet. Let's get started creating our design. What I have on my screen is just a 5x7 hoop, and I have grid lines that are 1/4 inch apart from each other. You can do this design in a 4x4 hoop, but I would recommend going ahead and creating it in a 5x7. And if you have a machine that only does 4x4, or if you want to save some stabilizer, you can stitch it in a 4x4, but you'll want to just rotate it so that it fits diagonally in your hoop. Doing it in the 5x7 hoop here will make it easier for you to see what you're doing, and then you can change the hoop in your software. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a circle, which we will then stretch to be our oval outline. So I'm going to click on my circle tool. When you get the mouse pointer back down in the grid, you just click and release, and then you drag, and that will create your circle. And if you'll just bear with me, I want to make sure that I get exactly the size that I want here so I don't have to resize it later. What we're looking for is approximately 2 3/4 inches in diameter. And it looks like I need to go just a hair bigger. Okay, right there. Once I had it the size I wanted, I just clicked my left mouse button again. And now I'm going to go ahead and select my graphic up here in the corner. And I'm going to go ahead and move that graphic into the center of my hoop, just to make it a little easier for you to see what I'm doing and for me to work with. What I'm doing is I'm just lining up the red lines of the circle with a grid line, just so that we have it easy to tell where we are. And I'm not worrying about this being exactly centered. That's not going to be an issue at this point. The next thing we need to do is we need to make this circle into an oval, because that's the outline shape that we want. So we have a tool over here called a quick edit box. I'm going to click that, and you'll see some information show up on the screen around the object. And this very first tool up here is a stretch tool. The 1, 2, 3, and 4 are keyboard buttons that you want to use in conjunction with this function to tell the program which direction you want to stretch it. We're going to be using the 2 key in this instance because we want to stretch this vertically. We are looking for an oval that is approximately 4 inches in length. We're going to go a little bit longer than that. So I'm going to click this right here, and you'll see that I already have it so that it's wanting to go. But as I do that, I'm going to press and hold the 2 on my keyboard, and you'll see that that is stretching that vertically. So now I need to make sure I still have the 2 key held down, and I'm going to just count my grid lines here on my screen and see if I have it the size that I want it to be. And if you don't have it right the first time, you can certainly redo this. Okay, I need to make it just a little bit shorter. Wrong way. There we go. And once I have it the size I want, then you just click the left mouse button again, and that will set your size. And I'm just going to move this and just verify that I have it the size that I want. Just move it up to a line so it's easier to count. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, that's an inch. 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 2 inches. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and then a little bit bigger. And you could certainly use the grid over here. It's just, I just find it a little easier than trying to follow that over, and I suppose I could move my grid over there to check it as well. But I want this in the center so that you can see it nicely. And in fact, I think I'm just going to zoom this in just a little bit so you can see it a little better. There we go. The next thing we need to do is we're going to need extra copies of this oval. So before we go any further, we're going to duplicate this. I've got that selected. I'm going to go ahead and duplicate this 3 times so that I have a total of 4 copies. And there's my 4 copies. The next thing that we need to do is we need to create the circles that will be the holes where we put the pin through. We're going to make these using the circle tool again, and we're going to make them a little bit over 3/8 of an inch. And that, remember, this is 1/4 inch, and 3/8 of an inch will be about halfway between one of these and one whole one. And we're just going to click the circle tool again. And I'm not going to worry about positioning at this point. We're just worrying about size. And that looks about right there. When it comes up over here, I'm going to select it. And now I'm going to go ahead and position it. Remember, I didn't worry about where it was. I just worried about getting it the correct size. I'm using the grid in order to get this lined up. Not quite. Just take your time while you're doing this and do it so it's nice and neat. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we need a hole on the other end, and to ensure that we get the same exact size circle, we're just going to go ahead, and it's easier this way anyway, we're going to go ahead and duplicate it. That will put another copy of this. Let me turn off this quick edit box. That circle is now over the top of the other one, so we're going to move that to the other end, and we're going to use our grid in order to position this. So we take a hold of that one, and we want it centered on that line, but we need to have it in the same distance from the other end, and that looks about right. And then I just go ahead and click my mouse button when I have it positioned. So now I have my 2 circles here. We'll need to duplicate those circles so that we have some to make the holes in the graphic, and so that we have something so that we can do our satin stitch around the outside and our underlay. So we're going to want a total of 6 copies of this graphic. So I'm selecting 2, and I'll just duplicate the 2 at once. So that means that I need to duplicate this twice. And now I have my 6 circles, and one is one end, one's the other. What I'll do next is I'm going to change the colors of these circles so that we can identify what they are here, and so that they'll be separate color stops when we go to stitch this out. So if I click every other, let me just undo those. If I click every other one of those, they should be all on this end, and they are. So I'm going to go ahead and just pick a color. So we'll select that color for this set, and then I'm going to select the other 3, and we'll make those all a different color as well. And we'll go ahead and make those deep gold. So now we'll be able to tell which of these is which. I'm going to move 3 of these ovals right down to the very bottom of the list. One more, there we go. We won't need these until the very end. These will end up being our underlay for satin around the outside and for the satin itself. So I'm just moving those down out of the way. The next thing we'll do is we're going to actually add the holes that are our circles here to our oval. So in order to add the holes, we need to select the graphics that we want to use, and we're going to use one each of the holes for either end, and we're going to use our first oval here. So we'll go up to our list and we'll click Add Hole, and this is also over here on this little menu as well. Doesn't matter which one you select from. And we've done holes in previous tutorial videos, and I actually have a video on how to do the holes themselves. But basically, if you read the directions down here at the bottom of the screen, it will talk you through it. We're going to click on the curve to add the hole to, so we want to add the holes to the oval, so that we click the oval first, and then we're going to click the hole of the curve that we want to add to it. So we want to add this circle to that oval. And unfortunately, it doesn't show up very well here, but you'll notice that our circle has now disappeared from here. So now we are still in that mode, so we just click the oval again, and we click a point on the circle, and that will add that in as well. And you'll notice that we no longer have 6 of these, we only have 4. So they have been added to this top oval. We need to now add our fill into our oval. So we're going to leave that selected, and we're going to go up here and we're going to do fill top stitches. And that fills it in. Then we need to change some of our settings. The first thing we're going to do is change our angle, and Kim has used 135 for one of them. So we'll go ahead and set that. And she's also used spacing of 25, which gives us a nice open spacing here. And she also used a length of 15. So essentially, this oval is now done. Now we can duplicate it. So we've got it selected, and we're going to come up here and we're going to click duplicate. And now we have a second one. And unfortunately, I didn't click my graphic up here that I needed to put it after, so I'll just move that one up to the top. Okay. Now we have this one. This is our duplicate. So now we just need to do a couple of changes to this, and then we'll have 2 different angles here. So we're going to change the angle to this one to 80. That's what Kim used on hers. And that will change it. So now we have a little crisscross design. All of the other settings are going to stay the same. We're just going to change the color so we have a contrasting color so that we can easily tell which one is which as we're working with it. The next part of doing this is probably the most complicated of the whole process. What we need to do is we need to edit our fill order. If you haven't done any editing fill order, this might not be a bad project to start on for learning this. It can be a little tedious and it can be kind of frustrating. But once you get the hang of it, it's not too bad. And hopefully I'll be able to zip through this because I haven't gone ahead and done one of these ahead so that I know what order I'm going to use. So we're going to be doing this together. You come down here to Edit Fill Order, and I have my first graphic selected. And I'm going to, right here where it says Edit Fill Order, I'm going to click on Auto. When you do that, you get a little box that comes up. And then you click that box and you'll get what I have on my screen. And I'm going to just adjust things a little bit here so it's easier for both of us to see. I'm just using the buttons on this window to get things adjusted a little bit. Okay. Actually, let me bring that back down just a hair because I'm losing some of the stuff down here. The first thing you need to do when you bring this up is you need to tell it manual. And we don't want to keep what the program has decided for us. So we say no. The next part is just to look at what looks like it's probably going to be the easiest thing to do. Both of these have a section on either side of this circle, and it's unfortunately there's no way to really get around that. Let's go ahead and start with section 0, and it starts here and it will end here, and it will start on section 1 here and it ends here. What we need to do is get from here over to this section, or we can come up and around and come back down here. I tend to prefer to do this all in one direction without coming back around back onto itself. I'm not sure if that would make any difference in the stitch out of this, but that's what I'm aiming for on this particular one. I think probably the best thing for us to do is to go ahead and switch this around so that we have our start and end here, and then we'll flip this around as well. What I'm trying to do is not get it stitched out across this so we have a nice clean grid work. So let's see, we have our start and our end here. Getting over here is no problem, but then we're still ending here, so we're going to have to come back over again, but we'll do what we need to do here. Section 2, we need to have start. Actually, it's fine just the way it is. We're going to go ahead and just do some start paths for these. So this one starts and ends here, and then it starts here, so we don't want this going across. We want it to have it come right down through here. So we're going to add a start path to section 1 by clicking Add. And if you don't already know how to do this, the video that I have done on doing an embossed design will show you a little bit more on how to do this. And there is also another video as well done by Jim from EmbroideryWare. I'm going to go ahead and create that stitch path. And for this type of design, you want to go right over the top of the same lines, and you want to use the outside and around that inner circle to create where you're going from one place to another. You'll see that now it comes right down over the top of this same line. So that one is created. Now we need to do a start path from section 1 to section 2. So we're going to go ahead and add that path, and we're going to follow right around the outside of that hole that's there. And I'm just clicking multiple times to create the circle around here until I get to where the S is. Then I right click to set it, and then that turns out there. And section 2 ends here, and then right now the start path goes right across there, and we don't want that to happen either. So now section 3 needs a start path. So we'll put that in. And I think the lesser of two evils on this case is just to go right back over the top of this one here, and then we're going to come over here around the outside and back up here. And you'll see that avoids having those lines cross like that. Okay, so now we are at section 3, and section 3 ends here. Section 4 starts here, which is good. And then it ends here. And then section 6 starts, here and ends here, and that's that. The rest of it's actually pretty good. So we just really at this point, all we need to do is we'll need to reverse section 5, but we just need to create our start paths. So we end here and start here, that's good. We end here and we need to change section 5 so it stitches last. So we'll bring 6 up 1 and we'll update. And as I've done in my other videos, I just click that top one and I click update again so that I don't have to deal with that bright aqua, which is kind of hard to see. So now we have section 6 and then section 5. So we're going to come up here and do that little section last. It comes here and it starts here. That's good. And you'll see that when we go from 6 to 5, we do have an issue here. It jumps right across here. Well, we want it to start and end out on the outside. So we'll work on that, and that worked out nicely. Now we just need to make a start path for section 5. And we'll want to go right around the outside of our oval. There we go. Okay, this section has been ordered. You'll notice that these are just jump lines from, if I had my circles over here hidden, you wouldn't see this jump line. This one right here is the jump stitch that goes from doing the outline of this one to the outline of this one. So we're not going to worry about that. We'll want to remember that the section that we have on the screen ends right here in this upper right-hand corner. If we can, we'd like to have the other one begin in this area. That way we don't have to worry about a big jump stitch when we go from one section to another, because we're going to be stitching this back to back. And we're actually going to be stitching 3 times this direction and 3 times this direction, but it's going to alternate. That's what's going to allow the stitches to mesh together and hold together. They'll be sandwiched with each other. So remember that our section up here ends right here. So we're done ordering this. I'm going to go ahead and close this. And I'm going to switch to my other graphic. And just for the sake of, let me just go ahead and get that one off the screen so we don't see it. And we're going to come down here and we're going to do the same exact thing on this direction as we did the other. Now remember, the other one ended right in here, so we'd like to try to start up here if we can. So that would make sense that we would start with section 6. This one's going to require a bit more work. Whoops, I forgot to change it to manual. Tell it no. So we're going to go with number 6 first, and we'll leave it as 5 and 6 being, or 5 and 4. Right now I'm not sure where we're going to go. We want to start, this starting area is just perfect for this one. And then we'll want to do section 4 next. So let's go ahead and move that up. And you'll have to bear with me because I'm doing this on the fly as we're learning here. Then we'll want to do section 5. And then it will be section 3. And I'm going to go ahead and update that, and we'll worry about these other sections once we get down there. Okay, so we have section 6, and then we're going to do 4, and then we're going to do 5, and then we're going to do 3. Having this start and stop in the center isn't a big deal because we're going to need to go over here anyway. So this one will want to be reversed because ending is here and starting is here. We want to probably flip those around, because when we go to do section 3, we'll want this one to end over here. So section 4, we're going to change it so that we have start and end here, like this. And section 5, we're going to do the same thing. And actually, we may not want to do that. There, that works out better, I think. The reason I chose this direction is this line is a little shorter than this one, so it'll be less of a start path to get back out here. So we'll just go ahead and try this and see how it works. So we need to create a start path for section 4 from number 6. So we'll go ahead and add that in. We're going to come right around the outside. Remember, we don't want to cross those lines. And then I'm going to let that follow right along. And if you make a mistake, it's easy enough to go back. And that one isn't completely perfect. I probably would go back and redo that. In fact, we can just do that real quick. Whoops, I forgot to tell it what we're going to do. Okay, what I didn't do is I didn't get it far enough down. There, now it's right on my line. Yeah, that looks a little better. Okay, so we have it starting here and ending here. Now we need to get over up here from down here. So number 5, we're going to click Add for a start path. And remember, I'm going to do right around the outside of where that circle is going to be. This one's not going to be perfect either. Right up there on that line and bring it right down. The reason you don't want to cross the hole here is because this is going to be open. If you don't have it stitch across here, you're going to have a thread to clip. So we're taking the time to get those threads out of that hole. So we're at section 5. It stitches across here and comes to here. And we have 2 endpoints meeting. So now we're going to need to reverse section 3. And what we want is our start point up here. And there we have our start point. So this is perfect all the way down through here. And now section 1 has its endpoint with the other endpoint. So we'll want to switch this around. And actually we need to reorder it first. So let's go ahead and we'll move section 1 up 1. And then we'll want to do probably section 0 and then section 2, just the way it is. So let me go ahead and update this. And we'll need to switch section 1 around so we have start point and end points together. There we go. The start point of section 1 is at this end point of section 3. So it's going to come over here and stitch to here. And now we're going to do section 0. Well, section 0 is backwards on us now. So we just need to play with the points over here and get it so that it works out. So now we have the end of section 1 and the start of section 0 together. And our end is here. And now we just need to, really all we need to do is just come right up here with the start path for section 2. So we'll just go ahead and draw that right around the outside of that oval. And this actually ends up kind of working out as a bit more underlay for the outside of your oval. Take your time and get that nice and neat. And there we go. This has all been ordered. And remember that we had the other one ending here. Let's check and see how they work together. We're going to go ahead and close this. And I'm going to view both of those. And we're going to create one more start path. This will be between the end of the first oval and the beginning of the second. This will allow us to stitch continuously from oval 1 to oval 2 without a jump stitch. We would also then be able to change the color of each pair of ovals so that they are the same. When they are the same color, they would be one color stop when the file is exported to a machine format. You might also want to add a start path from the end of oval 2 to the beginning of oval 1. This would make the machine stitch the entire background of the hair holder without stopping if you change all 6 of the oval graphics to the same color. That's going to be up to you. We're not going to do that in this video. I have my start and end points viewing turned off, so I'm going to turn that on for this step. I sometimes turn them off if they seem to be in the way of what I'm doing. So I'm going to come up here to my Show Hide menu, and I'm going to turn this on. This will allow us to see right here where they go so that we can add those steps in there. So we're going to add a start path from the end of this one to the beginning of this one. So we have the end of the first one, the red box is the end, and the green box with the 2 is the start of section 2. So simply all we need to do is create a little start path that goes right from here to here, and it may not even be necessary, but we're going to go ahead and put it in just to show you how to do this. So we'll go back in. We've got our red section selected because that's the second one. We'll go back into our manual edit mode, and I'll move this back over here. And we want to add the step to the very first one. So we're going to go ahead and click Add, and then all we need to do is draw our line right from the red box to the green box. And then right click, and we're all set with that. So now effectively I could change, once I have duplicated this, we're going to be duplicating these. Once I've duplicated this, I can change each pair to be the same color, and then it will stitch out one direction, it'll stitch out the other direction, and then it would stop. If you added the start path to the beginning of this one, your very first one's going to have a little oddball start path for it that will start before it ever starts stitching in the center. That might possibly cause a problem with where you start. So you'll need to explore that if you decide to do that. I'm just going to go ahead and turn off my viewing here just so that we don't confuse things. So now that we have our ovals done and everything is perfect, we need to duplicate these ovals, and we need a total of 6 of them. We need 3 blue and 3 red. So I'm just going to have both of those selected, and I'm going to go ahead and click duplicate, and I'm going to click duplicate again. And I probably should have clicked my graphic up there so that it would show where to insert them, but I didn't. So we'll go ahead and move them. It's not a big deal. And I've kind of found that if you're duplicating more than one item, somehow it ends up not putting the 2 copies right together with each other. So now we need to get these so they alternate. Whoops, I hit that one. That one didn't want to be that way. So we'll get them alternating, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red. So that's exactly what we want. This right here is the freestanding lace part of your design. That's all there is to that part. Now what we're going to do is we're going to create the underlay that goes around these circles. So we're going to select the first 2 of those circles, and we want 1 of each of them. We select the first 2, and we're going to apply some different settings to this. We're going to come down to our list, and we're going to apply the type of wide, and that's going to make a nice little underlay stitch for us. And we're going to select a length of 30, which it already is. So our underlay is done for those. So we can unselect those. And now we're going to select the other 2. And this will be our satin. We'll come down here and we'll select our satin. And we've got some other settings that we need to do as well. The default spacing of 4. And then we're going to change these numbers, which is going to affect the width and which side of the center that it goes on. We're going to have the inside width be 15. and the outside width is going to be 10, and our length is 30. I don't think that that length right there applies to anything with satin. So that's all taken care of for that. Now we just deselect those, and we scroll down our list, and we bring up our first oval. This is going to be the underlay for this. We're going to go ahead and have that selected, and we're going to select again, type is going to be wide, and our length is going to be 15. Go ahead and deselect that one and select the next one. And Kim has done 2 layers of satin around the outside, and I believe that's probably to make sure that we catch all of the little edges of this so that it doesn't fall apart. With this selected, we're going to go ahead and come down here, and we're going to select our satin again. And our spacing is going to be 4. And both of the inside and the outside, Kim chose a 14. We're going to change both of those to 14. And that gives us a little bit of a narrow satin. And we'll deselect that one and select the next one. And again, we're going to select satin. And on this one, the inside and outside are going to be 20. This will have this layer of satin will be a little wider than the other so that it's sure to catch all of that. You'll want to make sure that all of these graphics are in order. If they're not, you're going to end up having your underlay on the top of your satin or something like that. You may want to make sure that you have any lock stitches in place that you feel are necessary. I don't believe Kim had any in there. I didn't happen to check on that. At this point, your design is pretty much done. You'll want to, at this point, go ahead and add your design to the center. Make sure that it's not terribly dense. Maybe start out with something that has a light fill to it and see how that works. I have not actually myself stitched one of these. I actually digitized a base to make sure that I was doing it correctly, and I sent it to Kim, and she stitched it and looked at it, and she said it looked very good. But I did not add a design to it. I just sent her the base. So add a word. You can use the lettering tool within EmbroideryWare. That's how the monogrammed one was done. Use a purchase design. Use your embroidery software to merge those 2 files together, or digitize your own design by bringing in a graphic and digitizing over the top of this. Whatever you'd like to do is completely up to you. You'll probably want to test stitch one of these out and make sure your hole is big enough for whatever you're going to use for your pin. And that's pretty much it. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've learned something. I know I learned a couple of things while figuring out how this was done using Kim's file to look at. And thank you very much, Kim, for sharing your idea with us. Thanks for joining me.